The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent.
Gaming addiction is a disease according to the World Health Organization. The group officially recognizing gaming disorder as a condition in its latest revision of its international classification of diseases.
Look at the internet because a lot of bad things are happening to young kids and young minds, and their minds are being formed. And we have to do something about maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
Stephen Breyer said they use these to train military. I'm not a medical expert, but I know who is, and it's not the people the video game industry put out.
If they're sitting there trying to claim that their kid's going to shoot up a school because of a video game, no. Crazy people do that. If your kid's a crazy person, he's going to do it regardless of what game he's playing. He can play Animal Crossing, for crying out loud. By now, you've probably heard about the World Health Organization stating that video game addiction is a disease. Some people were upset by this because they feel that this is just villainizing video games more, while others rejoice because now there is proof that video games are bad for you. However, to be diagnosed with video game addiction, you have to have 5 of these symptoms: an obsession with a video game, withdrawal symptoms when not playing games, a tolerance for gaming, so that you have to spend more hours playing a game in order to feel satisfied, at least one failed attempt in trying to stop or reduce the amount of time you spend playing video games, a loss of interest in other life activities, overuse of digital games despite the impact it is having on your life, and the list goes on. You have to have at least 5 of these symptoms for at least a year in order to be diagnosed with gaming addiction. It's pretty reasonable to see how video game addiction can affect other people's lives. There's been some deaths caused by people playing video games for days on end. There's a story about a 9-year-old girl refusing to stop playing Fortnite, and she ended up soiling herself. For everybody out there who has played video games a lot, you probably know at least one person who just really got into video games where they wouldn't even hang out with somebody because they were just so into it. Or at least you've heard about people like that. I do have a lot of sympathy for these people because they're probably getting sucked into the video game world because they're not happy with their real life. However, there are people out there trying to claim that video games in general is bad for everybody. And that's just not the case. I'm not talking about video game addiction. If you have a problem, I believe it. I can see how video games can be addicting. I have played video games my whole entire life, and I have never once felt like I was addicted to a game. I would totally go out on a game where that's all I wanted to do for like a week or so, but after I got it out of my system, I was kind of over it. There are people out there trying to claim that video games are bad for everybody. People they keep insisting that video games causes violence, despite countless studies showing that video games do not cause violence. And in fact, sometimes studies even show that there is a decrease in violence when kids play video games. People still insist that video games is the reason why we have school shootings and other violent problems. I'm not here to say I have a solution or I can tell you what the problem is. Clearly there is a problem, but I'm here to tell you video games is not the cause for it. The people trying to claim that video games are a problem and that they're causing violence are also trying to insist that the government should step in and just stop kids from playing certain video games such as Fortnite, Call of Duty, Doom, maybe Mortal Kombat, like the more violent video games. Nobody, I don't think, is trying to call for a stop of like Pokemon. People are insisting that the government should step in and stop parents from letting their kids playing certain violent games. In 2011, Congress has decided that California could not make a law that made it so parents couldn't buy certain video games for their kids. They decided that the parents should ultimately have the choice in what their kids play and what they do not play. They decided this because there is no direct connection between violence and video games. In fact, studies have even shown that video games improve your ability to problem solve, concentrate, your coordination, so on. And despite what people always seem to believe, video games even help with your social skills. believe it or not, not everybody spends their time locked away in their room playing a game, being isolated. There's plenty of online games out there that kids are playing, adults are playing, that allow you to hang out with your friends without actually having to leave your house. I know, it sounds weird, but it's actually a lot of fun, and it's really easy. I'm not saying that kids should definitely spend more time playing video games. Personally, I don't have any kids, so I really can't say what's the right amount of time. But I know if I did have kids, I would let them play video games. I would insist that they get their chores done first, and then I'd let them decide to play a video game or to play outside. I know growing up, my parents weren't super strict on playing video games, but when they were, for some reason, my mom had like this thing against The Sims. I could play any other game, but not The Sims. And all my friends were playing The Sims, and you know what I wanted? I wanted to play The Sims. I obsessed over The Sims. And finally, when my older brothers convinced her that it wasn't that bad, she let me play it. I played the shit out of that game for like a week. Some people will take it to the extreme and play like countless hours. They will stop eating or they'll overeat. They won't do anything but play games. That's when games is a problem. I would let my kid decide if they wanted to play outside or not. And if they always insisted on playing video games, I'd probably encourage them to play outside, get them into a sport. But like, I was never into sports. I like playing video games. I didn't like going outside because I got sunburnt all the time or I hurt myself all the time. I was a little bit of a wimp, okay? So video games was kind of like fun because I could be a badass without being a badass. That was like the best way to hang out with your friends. You either go to their house and play some Mortal Kombat, or you stay home and play some Halo Online or Call of Duty. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think video games causes violence? I'm shaming you if you do, because like they don't. But like if you had kids, or if you do have kids, do you think you should let them play a lot of video games? Do you think you should monitor it? Is video games considered the same as watching TV? I personally think a video game is a little bit better than watching TV, but like, I'm no expert, but I do find this kind of interesting to see how people think about it, how they feel about it. I totally respect the fact if there's parents out there who just don't want their kids to play video games for one reason or another. If they're sitting there trying to claim that their kid's gonna shoot up a school because of a video game, no. Crazy people do that. If your kid's a crazy person, he's gonna do it regardless of what game he's playing. He can play Animal Crossing, for crying out loud. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm really curious to know how you guys feel about this whole video game topic. For me personally, I just can't help but like die a little bit on the inside when people insist that video games causes violence. Like, that's my main point here, is that video games do not cause violence. They could cause other issues, I'm sure of it, but they don't cause kids to be violent. It's just not the case. Let me know your thoughts. I hope to see you sooner rather than later. Bye!